We're back here in St. Paul, where last night you might say politics and journalism intersected. Politics attacked journalism, I guess is how they intersected. Jay Carney is the Washington bureau chief for Time magazine, and he's with us here tonight. Tom Brokaw was sitting in that chair. We talked about it at the end of our coverage, Jay. Most recently, you were in the news in such a passive but active way. Right. You conducted an interview with John McCain. The rest of us read the transcripts of the interview, and it was an extremely testy, almost nerve-wracking exchange to read. Set the scene and tell me what happened.
Well, this was our pre-convention interview, Time magazine. We're going to do a big convention issue. We get on the plane, my colleague Michael Shear and I. We get ushered up to the front of the plane, where there's a sofa that was designed to have reporters, the confab Straight Talk Express, but of course that's been
borrowing from his bus.
Borrowing from his bus. They've ditched that idea. They're trying to keep him very controlled and on message. And for whatever reason, he was clearly not in a particularly good mood. I think he's generally feels aggrieved about the treatment he's been getting from the media, or by comparison with the treatment the media has given Barack Obama. And I've known him, as a lot of us have, for a long time, covered him, through the halcyon days of the media love fest for John McCain, and it was like he'd been body snatched. It was somebody I didn't recognize. We opened, as you often do with, in an interview, with some softball questions, one about defining honor, which is such a concept that's important in his life. He told me to read his books. I said, Senator, I've read your books. I'm not going to talk about it. Read my books. And it went downhill from there.
And at one point, didn't you go back at him and say, who?
I said, at one point when he refused to answer a question about something obvious that everyone else in the McCain world has acknowledged, which is this abrupt shift in the nature of their campaign, and he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then a question later, when he refused to answer, I just said, do I know you? Do I know you? Because that's really what it felt like. It was a pretty startling difference from the man that used to interact with the media so easily.
Interact is a soft term for it. We should take a step back and say that, if anything, there were charges of way too much coziness between the press corps and John McCain. And one of our colleagues at The Atlantic finally theorized that it's because he's as a friend of mine says, he's a quality hang. Like Barack Obama, they're nice guys to hang around with.
They are, and John McCain was qualitatively different, as you know, Brian, from any other member of Congress, literally. I mean, when I first covered him during his tobacco legislation days, he took a liking to me and said, you can go in any meeting with me that you want until someone else kicks you out. An administration official, the Surgeon General, I mean, nobody else does that. So it was a level of access that was, I think, refreshing, and it's what earned him such positive press. And that's what's so ironic now, because they've clearly decided that the media is the enemy. We saw that last night in the convention. This morning I was on MSNBC with Nicole Wallace, a senior campaign official, and she launched an attack against the mere idea that Sarah Palin might have to answer some questions from the media at some point about domestic policy and foreign policy, as though just simply giving speeches is enough to prove her qualifications. Speeches written by speechwriters. She obviously gives a great speech, but she's going to have to, I think, at some point. I think the American people are going to want her to show that she's capable of answering these questions.
And isn't some of the media harumph this morning because there were actual feelings of guilt that the media were too close for many years and too enabling to John McCain?
Sure. I mean, there's a sense of a spurned lover on both sides, I think, and the stakes couldn't be higher, and clearly the campaign has decided that one way to win is to attack the media. Now, that could work. It does not have a great history of working. Annoy the media, re-elect George Bush, 1992. Bush got, I think, 39% of the vote, or 37% of the vote. So maybe it'll work this year. My sense is the issues are too great. This is not a time of peace and prosperity where people are just angry at cultural things or the media. They've got issues like the economy, the war, other issues.
Now, Jay, talk about the headline on the cover story, Time magazine, about Sarah Palin is the education of Sarah Palin, which describes a literal act. She has been closeted and will now need to learn a lot that she didn't need to function on a day-to-day basis as governor of Alaska. You say sooner or later she'll have to talk about some policy questions. What if the dynamic has changed and the position is, you know what, maybe she doesn't need to know as much as Dick Cheney knows about brigade downsizing, throw weights, South Ossetia policy. We have people for that. What if she needs to be her and all that represents, and we just threw a new cog into American politics?
Well, that's possible. The politician who governs by gut instinct and just sort of general acumen is not unheard of in American history. It's actually pretty much what George W. Bush brought to office. He had some experience as governor of Texas, but he bragged about
citing Teddy Roosevelt.
Exactly. Now, perhaps, and you know what? The thing is, when I say that she's going to have to answer these questions, I'm not suggesting she can't. She may prove very able. She certainly blew everyone away last night with her skills as a speech maker. But I think that these are serious times, and there's going to have to be some comfort level that while it might be new information for her, she can process it and react, and not just with her gut, but with her head.
A spurned but recovering Jay Carney
yes,
of Time magazine. Again, their cover story having to do with the woman, the governor, who is the talk of this gathering, having lit this place up like a prairie fire last night. Jay, thanks. Always great to see you.
Brian. Great to see you.